What I'm fascinated about is the transformation Cisco has taken. I remember when I graduated, Cisco was the biggest thing. Probably my first stock that I bought was of Cisco. And then obviously Cisco went through its own transformation over the years for where it is. Can you please describe the transformation this company has gone through when it was started many years ago to where it is right now, and what is the whole transformation effort that you guys are going through?
I think the transformation is a constant in the tech industry. Technology is moving very, very quickly in the space where we play, and for that reason, you have to constantly be on your toes. So to look at a transformation suggests there's a beginning and an end, and that you have turned into a butterfly all of a sudden or something else. And it's really not like that. It's continual, and that will continue for the foreseeable future. And if you don't like change and you don't find it really exciting to always have to be on your feet and figure out how to stay ahead of things, this isn't the right place for you. I happen to love it. Right now, what's going on is a real change in the way people consume information technology and the way they get value from it. 20 years ago, the way we delivered value to our customers was by helping internal IT staffs who were managing email and messaging services and some web commerce, help them build an infrastructure inside their systems that they could use for connections to the global internet to make those things happen. Today, there are so many different ways that people can achieve delivery of the services that they're trying to deliver to their users. And the principle among them is the transformation and availability of the cloud services that are really ubiquitous now in so many different spaces. And yet what we're not seeing, compared to what some of the prognosticators were saying just a few years ago, is that everything goes to the cloud. In fact, what we're seeing is a multi-cloud environment where people use different public clouds for different types of workloads in their systems. They use private clouds that they build that just are for their enterprise. And they still use on-premises equipment quite a bit too. That's a huge business for us, just as it's always been. And we need to be nimble enough to help people work in that multi-cloud environment, to have security from end to end, and know that they're going to have a consistent security visibility, whether they're using a public cloud service from one of the large public cloud providers, all the way to the infrastructure that they have on their own site. We need to be able to give them analytics across that platform. How are all my applications working, whether those applications are sitting in a cloud environment or sitting on premises? And as we look across that, we want people to be able to work better together. We want to drive a better employee experience. And we want to change the way networking works to give people much easier ability to deploy new services and extend what they're already doing. So as we look at those different really pillars of our work, it's very, very different than what we did before in response to the technological capabilities, which if you think about it are really because of what we've been able to accomplish at Cisco in building the backbone of the global infrastructure. So it's constant. It's not a transformation we are going through and will be done with. It's a question of always thinking about how do we provide value to customers given the best technology that's out there? How do we change what we do quickly enough so that we stay ahead of that marketplace and so that customers can look to us and say, you know, if I'm working with Cisco, I know I'm going to be providing the best services I can to my employees, to my customers, and creating the best value for my shareholders.
One thing that is happening again is around the tax laws that may change. And I see that also as a transformation. One may argue good or bad, but how is Cisco working through the tax transformation that potentially may take place soon?
Well, that's a really great example of what I was describing in terms of needing to stay ahead of things. I don't think this tax legislation that's enacted in the United States now changes the overall total amount of taxes that we pay in a material way, given where we were before. But what it does do is free up the ability to do capital allocation in more rational ways, and it changes the incentives to do things in one way or another. And as our business changes, as we become much more driven by subscription services, and by recurring revenue, which really are what our investors want to see, but it's also the way our customers want to pay for our services. We have to look ahead and say, well, what have we been doing with a different business model that partly was in response to tax considerations? What can we change in that? What can we now free up because of a new tax environment that allows us to be much more aggressive in meeting our customer needs? As the leader of the legal organization, I work very closely with our tax team to take advantage of these opportunities and say, gee, I think that where my customers are going is they're going to want to consume value in the following way. What do I have to change so that when our salespeople come to me and say, Mark, we have a wonderful opportunity to help Thomson Reuters with a global deployment, and they want to do it this way, instead of looking back to structures that were built with different legal considerations, I can say, well, great, now we have a new world. How can I deliver value in that way? Or even better, I can say, you know what? I'm ready for you in Thomson Reuters because we thought of that already, and here's what we're going to do instead of the way we've been doing it. Go get it. That's what I want to achieve. I want to be one step ahead of where my customers are and my salespeople are so that our organization is never a reason that things are slowed down. I view our legal organization as a business accelerator.
How do you see transformation overall that is taking place with your role, and how do you adapt to that with you, with your teams? As you say that it's a constant that keeps on happening. That must be tiring. How do you keep on working on that and doing that? And what is your advice to stay ahead of the transformations that are taking place all the time?
You know, that's a much deeper psychological question about introversion, extroversion, where people get their energy. Frankly, I get my energy from times of change and the dynamism of that. So frankly, it doesn't make me tired. It makes me more excited to come to work every day. I'm more excited now by the environment we're in than I have been for the last 20 years because it feels like the late 90s again with all this tremendous opportunity for growth and change. It's very, very exciting. For my own role, it means listening very, very closely. I'm a member of Chuck Robbins, our CEO's executive leadership team. We have a weekly call for 90 minutes to get caught up and get aligned with each other. And for me, that's a critical opportunity to listen to where the business is going and then be thinking about the way we've been doing things in the past and say, okay, if we're going to be building that kind of product next year, how is that what's the sales motion for that going to look like? What do I need to be able to deliver? If there's some new regulatory requirement coming up and that I'm aware of and bringing to the team, I'm thinking about how is it that we can most quickly and easily adapt to this new environment? How do we then provide value to our customers in that way that meets those requirements? And how do I make sure that the engineering and sales teams and the operations folks in Cisco know about things far enough in advance that they can very smoothly integrate that into what they do? And I say smoothly from the standpoint of the way our customers see it and the way our stakeholders see it. A lot of what goes on in a company, it's like the duck that is moving smoothly across the water, but the feet are paddling madly beneath.
Yeah,
we're doing a lot of paddling these days.
And in this whole era of transformation, if you will, where do you see, what is the line between large corporations like Cisco or even Thomson Reuters, but then you have all the startups that are coming up? And you mentioned a little bit earlier on, it feels like we are back in the early 1990s where a lot of it's the feeling. What is the mix? How do you see going forward as we are looking into 2018 in the Valley with firms like Cisco? What is their responsibility in this whole transformation that is taking place?
Well, a lot of the energy is going to come from people who have great ideas and then want to start companies and bring those ideas to fruition. And we watch very closely what's going on in the space of startups. We invest in a lot of companies, and we acquire companies when there's technology that we don't have. But I think we're also pretty nimble and good at figuring out where things are going and trying to get ahead of it with our own technology. I think the great advantage that Silicon Valley has in this respect is a California law that goes back more than a century that makes it impossible to enforce non-compete agreements. And because of that, people are fully free to say, I'm leaving tomorrow and I'm going to start a company that competes with you and I'm going to beat you. And as long as folks don't take our trade secrets, they're fully free to do that. And we're big supporters of employee mobility. We think that's what drives the Valley forward and maintains competitive advantage of this ecosystem and, frankly, of our country. It's a wonderful thing. It's sometimes painful when you lose good people. There's a saying, your most important assets drive home every night. But it means also that we need to be very, very cognizant of taking care of our employees and making them feel good about working at this wonderful company and have them want to stay. So the startups are a key part of the Silicon Valley culture. It's what makes the Valley great, and it helps make us great too.
Thank you very much, Mark. It has been a pleasure to be here with you and talking about some of the topics that is so relevant in today's world. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to see you, and it's great to work with Thomson Reuters. Thomson Reuters is really a remarkable company that provides a lot of value to Cisco every day as well.